In a quiet rural town surrounded by endless green fields, narrow dirt paths, and skies that stretched wide and open, life moved slowly and predictably. The villagers woke with the sun, worked until their bodies were tired, and returned home with dust on their clothes and routine in their hearts. It was a place where everyone knew everyone else, where people's successes were celebrated loudly and their failures remembered even louder. In this village lived a young boy named Ethan Miller, a boy whose life looked ordinary from the outside, but carried an extraordinary struggle within. Ethan lived with his mother in a small clay house at the edge of the fields. His father had passed away years earlier, leaving behind responsibilities that were far too heavy for a child of Ethan's age. From a very young time, Ethan understood that survival came before comfort. Every morning before the sun even considered rising, he would wake to the soft rustle of wind outside and the ache of unfinished dreams inside. While other boys slept under warm blankets, Ethan stepped onto the cold floor, washed his face with water from a metal bowl, and walked toward the fields with a quiet determination. The work was hard and unforgiving. He plowed dry soil under the burning sun, watered crops until his hands cramped, and carried heavy loads that left his shoulders sore. Sweat soaked his clothes long before noon, but he never complained. He worked not because he wanted praise, but because he understood duty. Only after finishing his labor would he return home, eat a simple meal prepared by his mother, clean himself, and sit down to study for whatever time remained in the day. Despite exhaustion, Ethan loved learning. Books were his escape, his silent promise of a future beyond soil and sweat. His teachers noticed his sharp mind and his ability to understand complex ideas quickly. The villagers often spoke about him with admiration, calling him the boy who would change his family's fate. Many believed that Ethan would achieve top results in his final school examinations and become an example for every child in the village. Ethan believed it too. He believed that his intelligence and discipline would overcome his lack of time and resources. As exam season approached, his days grew longer and his nights shorter. He worked in the fields during the day and studied late into the night under a dim oil lamp. His eyes burned from reading, his hands trembled from fatigue, but his heart held hope. When the results were finally announced, the entire village gathered near the school building. Names were read aloud, marks were discussed, and futures were judged in seconds. When Ethan found his result, his heart stopped. He had failed one subject, just one, but that one subject shattered everything he believed about himself. The disappointment was overwhelming, but what followed was far worse. The villagers who once praised him now whispered behind his back. Each morning as he walked toward the fields, he felt eyes following him. Some laughed quietly, others spoke loudly enough for him to hear. They called him a disappointment. They mocked his intelligence. They reduced years of effort to a single failure. Ethan never argued. He never defended himself, but every word cut deep. His confidence slowly collapsed, and the belief that once fueled him began to fade. The noise of the village grew louder than his own thoughts. The opinions of others became heavier than the weight of his dreams. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Ethan went to see his former teacher, Mr. Jonathan Hale, an elderly man known for his wisdom and calm presence. The teacher lived alone in a small house filled with books, plants, and silence. Ethan stood before him, his head lowered, his voice heavy with frustration and pain. Without anger or blame, he shared the burden he had been carrying, the mockery, the whispers, the constant noise that had invaded his mind. The teacher listened quietly, his eyes steady and thoughtful. After a long pause, he gave Ethan a simple task for the next morning. He instructed him to take a large pot, fill it completely with milk, and walk the same path through the village. There was only one condition: not a single drop of milk should spill. The task confused Ethan. It felt strange and unrelated to his problem, but he trusted his teacher, so he agreed. The next morning arrived gently. Sunlight spilled across the fields, birds filled the air with soft sounds, and the village slowly came to life. Ethan filled a large metal pot with fresh milk until it reached the very edge. The pot was heavy, unstable, and unforgiving. One careless step would cause the milk to spill. As he stepped onto the familiar path, villagers appeared as usual. Some stood with crossed arms. Others smirked. A few whispered, but something unexpected happened. Ethan did not notice any of it. His entire attention was locked onto the pot. His hands were steady, His breathing was slow and controlled. Every step was intentional. The weight of the pot demanded his complete awareness. The ground beneath his feet, the balance of his body, the stillness of the milk. Nothing else existed. The voices around him faded. The faces blurred. Even laughter became distant, meaningless noise. The world narrowed down to one simple purpose: carry the pot without spilling the milk. When he reached the fields, the milk remained untouched. Not a single drop had fallen. Later, standing before his teacher, Ethan realized something profound. He explained that he had not heard the villagers at all. The teacher smiled, his expression calm and knowing. He explained that this was the lesson. When the mind is deeply focused on a purpose, external noise loses its power. Distractions cannot survive where attention is fully present. That day marked a turning point in Ethan's life. He understood that the villagers had not changed. He had simply allowed their voices to become louder than his own focus. Carrying the pot taught him that control did not come from silencing others, but from sharpening attention. From that moment on, Ethan approached life differently. He worked with peace instead of pressure. He studied with clarity instead of fear. When negative words came his way, they passed through him without leaving scars. His mind learned to stay fixed on what mattered. He prepared again for his examinations, not with desperation, but with discipline. Slowly, confidence returned. The fear that once controlled him dissolved. The village remained the same, but Ethan was no longer affected by it. One morning, as he stood watching the sunrise paint the fields gold, Ethan smiled. He understood that focus had the power to quiet the loudest world. He knew that when the mind holds firmly to its purpose, negativity fades into the background. And that is the true power of focus. If you ever feel crushed by opinions, distracted by noise, or weakened by doubt, remember this story. Hold your goal like a full pot of milk. Walk steadily. Stay focused. Let the world fade.